Sometimes, still, I thank God I never catch a cold. Sometimes you feel like one's going to come on, catch it. Just at the time you feel it's going to come on. To me, this works. I'll take a couple of these here colds, and I'm there and take care of it. But you got to take it just when you feel the symptom, after the cold is there. If you have the cold, I don't think Harry Ainson helps. Uncle Tony, he gets mad because he catches cold often. When he gets a cold, the sage was in forever. And he said to me, oh, sure, you never get a cold and stuff. He would say to me, you never get a cold. I was like, would you feel better if I did? He feels angry because he heard I never get the cold. Sometimes maybe it won't be a cold. Like sometimes I work with these children. And from the cover, their nose are drifting and they're coughing and they're singing. And I'm telling you, you could get a cold from these children. So when I feel like, gee, I feel if I hit a cold's coming on. You're almost sensitive. I feel like a cold coming on. And I said, well, not going to get a hold of me. So I keep these on hand, just in case. And if I feel that way, well, she doesn't happen very often. And your mother said it didn't help her. She said it didn't help. To me, it works on me. So if you'd taken just at the first signs of a cold, to me they do. I don't know. The same things don't work on everybody. Right? No. I take vitamin C every day. Well, I had her size on vitamin C. But she feels ever since she's taken vitamin C, she doesn't get many colds. And I guarantee that the vitamin C does help. Yeah. I told Uncle Al, he said he'd be excited in G. But he watches his kids all the time. The kids coming in with colds and it's for the exchange, germs in the air. And you're subjected to that, and you have to protect yourself. But Uncle Al, he says, I don't know, he took a couple of vitamin C, that's 1,000 milligrams. I bagged for him. 1,000 milligrams just before he leaves in the morning. And he feels that gives him some protection. But you see, keep my fingers crossed. I don't really talk about it, but I haven't had a cold in years. Yeah. I never get a fair cold. I don't get a cold. But maybe some vitamin C is okay. The winter time, I'll take a bag of 3,000 milligrams, but I don't take them out at one time. Yeah. Right, I take 2 500s in the morning. Then I'll take 1 500 in mid-afternoon. Then I'll take 2 in the evening. And then just move forward. I used to catch colds before I took vitamin C. Uncle Al was the one that first started me on the vitamin C. When we lived at the motel, he thought to me, "Mom, why don't you take it from vitamin C?" I said, "Why?" He said, "Sure." He said, "He'll save a vitamin. Dr. Fallon is his name. He's the one that started your vitamin C. In fact, he was on our talk show not too long ago. The guy was about 100 years old. And he takes even more than that a day. But he takes the powder type. They have the powder vitamin C because the powder goes directly to your blood right away. Damn. You see, if you take the capsules, they take longer time to get into your bloodstream. But the powder, he explains the should mixed up. Yeah. And he takes the powder type because that when we take it, they put it in water or orange juice or whatever you drink, but that'll go directly to your bloodstream right away instead of waiting. And he takes, I don't know how many thousands of vitamin C he takes a day. Because vitamin C is that the body doesn't require vitamin C. It takes whatever it needs and the rest goes to waste. You see, the body just takes what it needs and the rest will go to waste. So you don't have to worry about the poison in the case, I stop on worrying. I don't know about it. I think it's a good Lord kept me healthy because I haven't took care of other people. That's what Uncle Al told me. He says, man, you're an exception because, at your age, and that's true. I talk to a lot of people even younger than you. They've got I have to thank God I practice. I don't take any medication of any kind. Yeah. And when I talk to the other people, you don't know how many times every day I thank God. The first thing I get up in the morning, thank you, Lord, for keeping me healthy. I have a little farm in my knees that I could pretend is perfect. Well, I think, the good Lord, your mother even says this. She says, Mom, The good Lord never sends you anything you can't take. And I've taken a lot, not myself personally, but I think now I come to think about, because thank God, I kept all of, I'd had colds, I'd had the flu, things like that, but I've never really been sick there, by having anything. Because even you see the job that I had, we have to take a physical once a year. That up until I took this job, I never went to the doctor. Anyhow, so now the 7th of this month of January, I have my appointment. I can take my yearly physical examination. But the last examination I have no high blood pressure. I told them to check my cholesterol level. My cholesterol is fine. Everything is fine, according to the tests of the examination. And I feel that, let's say I could write a book because I'd taken care of members of my family that needed the care, and I took care of my mother. Now, my mother, this is why I like, because, we had a chiropractor, I don't know, can't live forever, but I can't see where chiropractors aren't today like the chiropractor were in my day. It's really named Dr. Computer. He was a chiropractor, all years. He could take care of everything. He was good. But these other chiropractors today, they're nothing compared to him. Nothing. So he saved my mother's life, a chiropractor. Medical doctor. My father had a specialist. You had the regular family doctor. Well, he couldn't do anything because she had nephritis. She had a kidney infection. The nephritis thing. And our regular doctor, he couldn't do much for her. Then my father, my father told me he wanted a specialist. But we had a specialist. He said the same thing. They gave her 2 weeks to live. Now, this is a long story. I want to cut it short just to give the important part in mind. So we had this chiropractor. We lived on Grand Island at that time. And this chiropractor lived about 2 doors down from where we were. My father always felt that a chiropractor is a bone doctor. He takes care of the bones in your body, right. not takes care of anything. So we never gave the chiropractor a second thought. And we had this year, these people there that were our sponsors when Grandpa and I got married. Mm-hmm. She always went to a chiropractor if things was wrong with her. So she came to visit my mother. And she said to me, she said, come in, tired of come on, people are fed up and they're fed up for baptizing a baby, well, come on, come on. So she said to me, come on, she goes, why don't you take them up to a chiropractor? And she already was familiar with them. She said, I said, yeah, do you think that? She said, yeah, why don't you think? You have nothing to lose anyhow. Yeah. Doctor had given her 2 weeks that we had the priest to give her the last rites. So after about she was. Yeah. Priest had come over to give her the last rites. And so I figured, I was only 22 years old at that time. I figured, the heck with the priest. The doctor says she only have 2 weeks. What do we have to lose? So I talked it over with my father. My father was against it. He said, what can he do? He's a bone doctor. He can't do anything for her. She's sick. He's a bone doctor. He can't actually live about. I don't care. I said, I'm going to take the chance. It says the doctor gave her 2 weeks to live, so we have nothing to lose. I was only 22 years old. Just about your what? 23. Being a young lady. I took the chance. I went against my father's wishes. The very next morning, I went to talk to the chiropractor. He said, I explained everything, what the medical doctor said. And he said to me, where there's life, there's hope. Yeah. And he came right over and examined my mother. Well, he couldn't move her because she was so weak. Now, the thing is, at the time, if you have any kind of infection in your body, you shouldn't eat any food because you're adding insult to injury. You're adding more poison. What is that's toxin? Too many toxins in the system causing the infection. Now, if you eat food, and now the medical doctor had said to feed her, and every time I would feed my mother, she would throw up because the body wouldn't take it. The body wouldn't accept it. The body's trying to tell you that you're not supposed to put food in the body.
Yeah.
And this is what how the chiropractors are. They stop the food entirely. No food.
How do you survive though?
Well, if you want to listen.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
have time to listen to it.
Yeah, okay.
But it was a very interesting story, very interesting.
Oh.
And so when the chiropractor came to visit to examine my mother, he stopped the food. Says, "Don't put any more." Says, He says, you're doing a bad thing by putting food into her system. That's why she throws up, because the body doesn't want it. No food. He said. She's got an infection in her kidneys, and we got to clear up that infection. Now, he said, every time she urinates, I want you to save the urine. And I used to put it in a gallon jug for him to feed. You know how that urine was? Now, urine is supposed to be nice and clear, and it's supposed to have a straw color, She urinated pus. Can you imagine that? It was just like pus. That's how she urinated. This is why she was on the verge of dying. He said, now, then he says, she's too weak to get out of bed. She was like a skeleton, skin and bones, skin and bones. He said, in 2 weeks' time, your mother's going to come to my office. In 2 weeks. And he was right. But he ordered me what to do for her in the meantime. And I had to, every morning, he wanted me to give her a sitz bath. What a sitz bath is? That you put hot water in a tub, you just sit in it. Because it just would affect the kidneys. See?
Okay.
Just to sit in the water. And while she was sitting in the water, I had put cold towels on her spine. But he didn't want the blood to rush to her head. But she could probably got a stroke. So he stopped the blood from rushing to the head in a hot water. See?
Yeah.
Makes sense, then.
Yeah.
But while she's in the sitz bath, put the cold towels on her spine. And then, I think she had to do that for half an hour. Then when I took her out of the sitz bath, I had to give her an enema to clean out the toxins in the body. And then, through the whole day, every half hour, I had to give her 8 ounces. First, that's orange juice, 8 ounces. And the next half hour, a glass of the warm water with the lemon juice. And I had to do this alternately every half hour, all day long. This is a cleansing method. And my mother used to say, oh, please don't give me any more. I just can't drink it. I said, you got to drink it. I said, the doctor said, you have to drink this because this is going to help you. And I would stand there and wait till, even though she drank it slowly, but I'd make sure she drank it every half hour. By the time she finished that, I was ready for another one.
Wow.
And every day, every time she urinated, I'd put the urine into the jug. And then I had to put hot wet towels on her stomach. About once every 2 hours, all day long. And I had to do this every day. And do you believe it? In 2 weeks, she was able to get out of bed because she wasn't that strong.
Mm.
And so he didn't live too far. It was just 2 doors down from where we lived.
Yes.
So in 2 weeks' time, he was right. She was able to get up, and I had to hold her by the arm, walk very slowly. But we got to his office. Then he started giving her treatment. Do you know, in 1 month's time, that man cured her? And you could keep that urine day by day, getting clear. And got to the point it was clear as crystal towards the end of the month. But no food, all right? Now the whole month, no solid, no nothing, just the orange juice and the rice warm water with the lemon juice. For a whole month, I had to do that. And that brought her back to life. And he cured her in 1 month's time doing it. You know what he said to me after I thanked him? He said, don't thank me. Then you cured her. Because you did everything I asked you to do.
Yeah.
So, now, the kidneys were all clean now. Because the urine was coming nice and clear. Just like crystal. So now we cannot give her solid right away. Because once you're on a fasting thing,
Right.
you can't put solids into your stomach. So he ordered cow's milk. Some cow's milk. And every day I had to make some uh, tea. Oh, you know how that's made? Because he told me how to make it. Every day, because we didn't have a refrigerator those days. Every day I went out to buy a pound of steak. Steak it had to be. And I put it in a fruit jar and put it in hot water. And let all the juices of the meat come out. That's what they call the meat key. The meat inside the jar, in the hot water, and let it steam. And it took all the juice out of the meat.
Cute.
So all the juice that came out of the meat, I would let her drink it. That was it. That was like a food, you know. And she had that every day. And then your grandpa had to go to the farm to buy some cow's milk. And they have to drink cow's milk every day, the milk and the meat key. And that was the sort of a litmus thing because, and I don't know how long she had us. That part I don't remember how long we did it before he started. And then even the foods, they're like a fat diet, so fat foods before you give the salads. And you sort of gradually work everything into the body until you get to the salad food. And she got well. She lived 14 years after that. Where the medical doctor said she only had 2 weeks to live. Well, my father worked, you know. My father, Dr. Carlino. My father said to him, "You told me my wife had only 2 weeks to live." And that specialist, too. He says, now she's well. He would not give it as a chiropractor any credit. He said, "Oh, well, that's just a coincidence." He said, "Coincidence? What do you mean coincidence? My wife was on a deathbed. We had the priest there to give her the last rites and everything. And this chiropractor failed her. No, and he wouldn't get like that." He said, "I don't believe he did it. It just was a coincidence."
Yeah.
Yeah. And from then on, we had this chiropractor take care of anybody that was sick. And then, about after a couple of years, I think, the grandma's sister got sick. In fact, there was one day they found her, she couldn't eat it, it was on the floor. She had very high blood pressure. Quick, I'm trying to see it. High blood pressure does not run in our family. But at the time my mother was sick, she had the high blood pressure because of the illness, the colic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so we took, Grandpa and I, at that time, Grandpa had a car. And so we took her and brought her to Dr. Congeal, the chiropractor, from Grandmother. He examined her and he looked at me. He says, "You know what she's done?" He says, "She needs the same care that you gave your mother."
Right.
So what did we do? We picked her up and brought her into our home to live with us so that I could give her the treatment that I gave my mother. And we made her well. But, that I was pregnant at that time. I was pregnant with your mother at that time. And then we cried. I was, thank God, I was a very healthy girl, very healthy. But I had, my mother was a prim woman. She was up. My parents was couldn't keep all their life. I don't think they ever gained an ounce all their life. But Grandpa's sister, she was a heavy woman. And I thought I was going to lose the baby. We had to put her there was a sick bath, and she couldn't get up herself, and I had to pull her up and on all of them. But I did the same thing with her. And she had two grown daughters that could have done it. I told her I was only a young girl. I did it to my mother. I was only 22 years old. I had to go up 3 flights of stairs because we didn't have the running hot water yet from the faucet. So I had to go down the basement. We had a 2-plate gas stove we had. And I used to heat the water in the boiler. I don't know if you ever saw the boilers that used to have. They where we used to boil our clothes. When we wash clothes, we used to boil our clothes. Today they use the solution to disinfect your clothes, make them come nice and white. But those days, you wash the clothes and you put them in the boiler, and you boil them, and they come nice and white, you know. But I used to use this boiler. I put the water in there, and I had to get the hot water from the basement and carry it up to the third floor and up in the bedroom. I had to do this every morning. I was pregnant. So then I had to do it with your grandpa's sister, and I took care of her. And she lived with us for a couple of months. And then when she got better, she went back home. But I never thought of anything at the time. Because she had 2 daughters, and I don't know what her daughters couldn't have done what I was doing. They used to come over and visit her like she was born. They'd go to the hospital and visit somebody. That's how they came to visit their mother, and then they go home. You think they'd help me with some of my housework, you know?
Yeah, do something at least.
That you know, you ignore your housework when you better do something like that, because at the time I was taking care of my mother, Aunt Mary. You remember Aunt Mary, my sister Mary? Well, she was only 15 at that time, and she did the housework while I took care of my mother. Although I did the washing, I used to get up. Remember, I was only a 22-year-old girl. I had 2 children, 2 small children. I used to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do the laundry, so that I could have it done in time, and I have to give my mother a little fist bath to take care of her. But I did the laundry, and you know, we were 10 people in the house. I did the laundry for 10 people. I did the laundry, I hang them on the clothesline. We don't have no dryer, you know, like you have today. I hung them out on the clothesline outside. By the time I got through with that, then I would time for me to take care of my mother. And then my sister, she was only 15, she took care of the housework. But I still did the grocery shopping and cooked dinner for the family, for 10 people. And, you know, I did all the ironing. I was the oldest girl. I wasn't the oldest. My brother Dick, he was the oldest.
Wow.
I was just the oldest girl. And Aggie, Aunt Mary, Uncle Tony, Uncle Victor, and Uncle Adam. Well, we were 7, you know, in the family. And at that time, well, I was married, Uncle Dick was married, Aunt Nanny was married. 3 of us were married. So 4 of them were still living in their home. My parents were sick, and my grand and I, 8, and there's 2 children, we were 10 in the family. And I did the laundry for 10, I cooked dinners for 10, and I did all that, you know. Well, sometimes after that, I don't know how I did. But the good Lord gave me the strength, gave me the strength and the health to do this. Now, my mother had never been a sick woman up until that point. She never had a headache. She never was sick, and she raised 7 children the hard way. She had 7 children. She had boarders in the house. She had to wash the wash clothes on the washboard. She used to keep me home every Monday. I was only 12 years old. My mother kept me home every Monday to help her with the wash. I had to scrub on the washboard, you know, mine and the clothes. Uncle Dick was up then, was working in a coal mine, my father in a coal mine. And you don't know how my father used to come home, he used to look like a very patient black, and I remember I used to strip down to the waist, and I remember I used to wash my father's back, and wash the clothes every Monday. And my parents kept me home every Monday to help my mother to do the clothes. And I never got an excuse telling I was going to cotton school at that time. And none was saying, you know, sometimes he says, why are you home every Monday? Could it be that you're sick every Monday? I said, tell him I was sick. You can't be that you're sick every Monday. My father had to pay a fine for that. Yeah. Because they kept me home out of school.
Yeah.
I mean, Lord, you paid a $20 fine for keeping me home every Monday. But that's why I said I could write a book.
Yeah.
But when it came to time, as I said, my mother lived 14 years after. Then after 14 years, that is the first time in her life she had ever gotten sick. After 14 years, she got sick again. And we didn't know what was wrong with her. So my brother Adam, he was the youngest. And your mother must have told you what lucky. But he got that, when he was 15 years old. He wasn't born with it. We got it there one night. We were living all in together in the 15s. And during the night, we heard a noise in the bedroom. My father got up to find out what it was. And here he had gotten what we smelled. I don't know how it started. It was during the puberty stage, I guess, because the body goes through a change, during that time. And something, nobody tripped it off or something, I don't know. But some people are born with it, but he wasn't a healthy child. In fact, he was all a healthy child because he was in the Navy, he passed the test to go into the Navy. You can't just test that with kind and something like that. You could be healthy, but you still can have something like that, because I don't know. With a car crash, I asked him, I said, what caused this? He said, the only explanation I can give now is because no doctor can ever know what caused the epileptic to get these spells. All they can do, they can get. Now today, I understand they have medication where they prolong it, they have it controlled. But this chiropractor, he told me, he said, which to me made a lot of sense. He said, you see that when the blood circulates into the veins, it goes into the blood, into the brain too, the blood circulates. And I hear, he says that at the time they get that spell, that the blood, something must block the blood from going through, or carrying the spell. So once the blood, then the finally goes through, then the spell is over. And to me, it made sense. It's like a blockage, it's not permanent. It's just at that moment, the blood can't go through. It's had to flow through the brain, and it causes the spell. Because it's not a disease, it's not anything like that. It just that he thought that the blood can't flow through the brain at that moment. That's why they got that kind of a spell. It affects the body. Because he went, and he didn't tell when he went to join, he joined the Navy. They gave him a physical. In fact, you could pass any physical, he was 100% okay. Because physically, he was nothing wrong with it. But then, because then when he was in the Navy, he happened to get a spell like that, then we sent him home. And he died from it, He was only 37 years old. And they said that cause was death, and we should have had an autopsy performed to find the cause of his death, because the reason they did it for his death. But he was, by that time, when he dies, my parents both were gone. And he was living on his own. He was working, But I wanted to make this statement that when my mother passed away, she became ill again after 14 years. It was during those 14 years she was physically well. I guess when a person has to go, it develops a W lesion. So she became ill, and they couldn't find out what was wrong, Even Dr. Continues couldn't find out, didn't seem to find out anything wrong with her. But I think that we felt, too, that she was awful worried about my brother. Because those days, when nobody had a telephone, my brother, at that age, he always come to stay at my house. And he'd stay there all day. And my mother didn't know where he went. And she'd be so worried. And then she finally would come over our house to find out that he was there, because he had to pick up a phone and call. And so we lived on 18th Street, and they lived on 22nd. So she'd come over our house to find out who was there, and she was worried. The chiropractor felt that she was too worried about us, about my brother. Because who knows, sometimes we get that well. But he'd always go out. We didn't stop and step up going on that or going anywhere. He was, you didn't let that stop him from living with life,
Yeah.
And my mother used to always get worried every time he went out. What we get to always crossing the street. Something my father would pitch us. My father pitched her when that was going to come on. because all the sudden his face would go blank, So my father went, he sat across the face, and that sort of did second, and he stopped it from coming out. Maybe by doing that, when the blood had
free.
there, it sort of cleared it up. See?
Mm-hmm.
So my father, when he would catch us, she and Betty, all the family face would go blank. I thought it would get resolved. He didn't hard strap the curtains that way. That's a lot of fun as well. And it's not fun. But they still can't find out what caused that.
Yeah.
They have medication to control it, but they can't find out what caused it. But it's not a disease, that's why. You really something that you can detect. There's got to be something like that, like the chiropractor saying. Got to be something else. Because there's no illness in the person's body.
Right.
They have nothing to associate it with. And you can't find out anything associated. So early morning, they lived in 22nd Street. We lived in the market, and that's about 10 blocks away. So every morning I'd tag children about town. And I'd feed my children, dress them, get ready for school, and let them up to school, and then I'd pick up and go to my mother, and I'd go there and I'd take care of them. I'd give her a sponge bath, I'd pull her hair, and I'd fix her something to eat, and I'd kind of run time for me to go back home because my kids would come home for lunch,
Mm-hmm.
So I'd went back home again and take care of my children. And I did this I've been this every morning. We'll go up and take care. And my sister Mary, she lived right across the street. She could have very well been it.
Yeah.
But you see, she had a problem, not for, as I said, I think her husband, he was an alcoholic.
Right.
So because her husband was an alcoholic, she thought that she had her hands full with him. I don't know. But I did that finally. Married my Uncle Victor was married twice, and he had a first wife, and then Winnie married. The first wife, he married to her for 3 years because she should have never gotten married because she wasn't the kind of woman to be married.
What was her name?
Avalon. She was, what's it? I haven't been married to a woman who couldn't help me. She's had already, she doesn't eat cook or supper. My brother couldn't help her work and we didn't have no supper cooks. She wouldn't even be home. She'd always go out and, I liked her. She was a nice person, but my brother come up from work and he had to go out around looking for her where she was. And most of the time she'd be in my house. She liked to be at my house. Oh, I thought no. Sometimes she'd come over and there, because it's time for my brother to get out of work, and 5 o'clock to get out of work, working at the hooker. I think to myself, how even she worried to go home and shut this? My brother, he's coming home from work and she's not worried about him coming home and not having anything cooked, any dinner. She'd sit there, and I couldn't stand it. So I'd say to her, she had a car. I'd say to her, well, we'll pick Vic up and have dinner over here. Oh, she liked that. So that's what she would do. She'd go pick him up at work and come home in my hockey and have 2 more at the table,
Yeah.
But talking about from my mother, going back to my mother when she got sick before she passed away, she's the one that said to me, she said, well, why don't you bring your mother home? I said, you're going back and forth every day. Because the neighbors that were living next door to my mother, and we saw that I did bitch, I had a big family myself that was taking care of. And she said, well, she said, the good Lord is going to reward you for being this way. You just take care of your mother, you take care of your mother. The good Lord is going to reward you. But, so this Uncle Nick's wife, she said, why don't she take your mother home? I said, her boy was still going back and forth every day. That's all loud and we're walking. I didn't mind. I was the young person. I didn't mind when he off the 10 miles that old days. So I think, that's just a good idea. And my mother, I don't know, she was such a marriage. She always felt that my parents always wasn't either both. Yeah, she said, should say, well, I'm the black sheep of the family. I think, if you're the black sheep of the family, you made yourself that way, I told her.
Probably.
Well, you know, I'm always sure. Now, and I'm better, they like you better. I says, listen, to some extent, I feel like I don't have two cents to rub together. I can't give them any money. So why do they, if they like, they better lie. Why? There's got to be a reason why. Because I'm more attentive to them.
Yeah.
I have 5 children, but I still take care of my parents, you know. I took care of my mother, I took care of my father, and so I took my mother into my home. We only lived in 3 rooms at that time. I had 7 people living in 3 rooms. We had 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, and like a little highway when you come in from the entrance. That's all we had. 7 people. So the grandfather, he says, well, you take her, bring her here, that's how you love my parents. And he says, I'll treat for the boy. Your mother can keep in bed with you, Well, instead of his place and bed to my mother's.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. And then when my mother was told that she was coming to my mother, he said, you know, you should have seen the happy look on your mother's face when she knew she was coming to your house to save.
Was she all alone there in her house?
Well, she had my father was there, my sister Mary, Uncle Victor, Uncle Tom, they're all still living their life. You know? But she was so happy to know that she was coming over to my place.
Yeah.
So I took her hand, and I used to even stay up night to her, just holding her hand or trying to make her feel comfortable. I neglected my work. I just did my housework because I felt that was more important to me. My housework couldn't be taken care of any time.
Yeah.
So I took care of my mother, but she wasn't getting any better. And finally, we took her to the specialty. He said, well, you should put her in the heart place. She needs the care, So Uncle Victor, he picked her up and carried her to the car, and we took her to the hospital. And she was only in the hospital 2 or 3 days.
What year was that, do you remember?
Well, she was 63 at the time. I was 32 years old at that time. So that's 32 to 90s. That's 38 years, isn't it? No, 32 to 90. 58 years. 57 years. 32 and 57 is 82. No, it couldn't be 58 years ago because Uncle Al was only 4 years old at that time. Now he's 53. So, 48 years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
48 years ago.
That would be 1942? 1942? During the war?
Yeah. During the Second World War.
Who won in the war? Anybody from the family?
Who won the war?
No, who was that? Was anybody, any of...
Well, what do you mean about the war? Who was in the war?
Yeah, did we have anybody that went into the war? Was any of...
Oh, no. Well, no, Uncle Don went.
Uncle Don?
Uncle
He
Don
was
went.
the oldest, so he probably...
Well, he volunteered.
All right.
He was only 18 when he got out of high school. He volunteered. Him and his friend, his name was Candino. He was 17 and Uncle Don was 18, and they volunteered into the service. I don't think it was war on that. Couldn't be that we, because we were living the 15th Amendment when he went into the service. Well, anyhow, when Uncle Don came home to Christmas that time, he came home on a furlough, and during the between Christmas and New Year, my father passed away. Because my father, because of working in a coal mine, you see, the years he worked in a coal mine, he was never sick. But they claimed that you get the black lung before working in a coal mine. But he was never sick. It never affected him. But when he went to work for the hooker, breathing in that gas. You know, the early days, my father used to come home from work, he couldn't even eat supper. He could hardly breathe because his lungs were full of gas. And I think the gas activated the condition because he never had it until he went to work for the hooker. And that, to me, I feel he just soon the hooker at that time, my father, because and I know that's what caused it because the gas that we used to, you know, the gas pipes would break, nobody would want to go in and fix them. My father would volunteer. I said, sure, you got a medal for that. He'd volunteer to go fix the gas pipes. And during that, he was inhale all the gas, you know.
Yeah.
And that must have activated the black, they called it the black lung. And he got asthma. Yeah. He said he had it for 15 years. And he then got to the point he was going in and out of the hospital so often that he had to go under the oxygen tank. But my father always wanted to come and live with me. But he moved to California. No, he was going to move to Arizona. But his plane to Arizona was supposed to be a good place for people that had asthma. So he took my brother, Ann, my youngest brother, him and my brother, and they went to Arizona. And but he didn't like it. It was too hot. So from Arizona, he went to California. And they lived in California for a while. And then they were alone, didn't have nobody there.
They got lonely
And they came back again to Niagara Falls. So I found him back at my door one day. I didn't even know they were coming back. So we had no phone those days, so he still knew what was going on. And I opened the door, there was my father. So we were living in 3 rooms, right?
Yeah.
So we had an army cot. So I put up an army cot in the kitchen. That's where my father would sleep. He was happy to sleep there. My sister Mary, she had a beautiful apartment. He didn't care to go live with her. But he finally went there because I don't know, my father was that did it. My parents always left to be with me.